Shalom. I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rekakwadash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth. Also, I want to acknowledge the Akim who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Through the Spirit, I'm going to do Micah, the 4th chapter. It starts out, it says in verse 1, "But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow unto it." All right. So this is talking about when Yahweh Shai reestablishes, our dominion, our government, our sovereign governing body, right, which are the elect, the prophets, along with Yahweh Shai. He's the head prophet. So that's that mountain, right? We tell you that the mountain, it's a parable for governments. So the Israelites, when we come back into dominion and rulership, we have the top government, right? Right now, Esau Edom, he has the top governments, right? He's got Russia, he's got the United States, which is AKA Babylon the Great, right? Verse 2, "And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem." All right? Because in that day, all the nations, they're going to want to learn the ways of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai through fear, right? Because of the destruction that Yahweh Shai and those angels are going to bring on them. In the kingdom, even the heathen nations are going to want to know the word of Yahweh, all right? And they're going to go to Jacob, because we're the ones who we're the ones who, we're the ones who the word comes out of, right? He uses us, the prophets of Israel, these so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. He uses us to really, we're the beginning of the kingdom. Us prophets, we're the beginning of the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right? Because what are we doing? We're pulling down thresholds, We're pulling down stumbling blocks here in our time, in our season, you see? And then let's go to Psalms for a quick precept, because they have to learn the truth from us, right? There's no other nation besides you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, who are the Israelites. There's no other nation who can teach the Holy Scriptures, properly. Let me see if I can find it right away. Yep, that's the Spirit. Psalm 147:19, it says, "He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh." See? So King David was saying, look, you showed this knowledge, this truth, you gave this understanding to Israel. He gave it to you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And really, he gives it to Judah first, right? Let's get that real quick. He gives it to the so-called blacks, who are the American Negroes. He gave it to them first, the head tribe of Israel. Let's get it. It's right here in Zechariah 12:7. Right? It says, "Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. So there's a purpose to why he gave the so-called blacks in America the knowledge and the wisdom first. For one, that's the head tribe of Israel, Judah. And for two, this prophecy, it says he'll save the tents of Judah first. All right? That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, dealing with the whole nation, both southern and northern kingdom Israel, right, do not magnify themselves against Judah. But the point is that Judah is the one who taught the other tribes the scriptures, okay? Yahushua, he was from the tribe of Judah. He sprang out the tribe of Judah. So it's only fitting Judah would be, Judah would be the ones to get it first. And then let's go to Genesis. I think it's, is it 19? Let me see. No, maybe it's 49. Yeah, Genesis 49 and 8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. See? So Judah, the reason why the brethren shall praise Judah is because that's the head tribe, right? Judah, and you can look at the way things are in America. Literally, Judah is the trendsetters of basically the whole planet. People want to be like Mike, they used to say in the 80s and 90s, right? Talking about Michael Jordan. Now they want to be like LeBron, right? Kendrick Lamar, he's their favorite rapper now, right? So Judah, by nature, it gets praised on the earth, even though they're at the bottom of society, along with the other tribes of Israel. You see, but they're still, by nature, they're praised, and the brethren praise. Why? It's because Yahweh gave Judah the understanding of the Bible first. That was the first tribe to understand the Holy Scriptures. Okay? Let's go back to Micah. Verse 3. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. All right? So when the true Jews, right, which is Judah, the word Jew is short for the tribe of Judah. The so-called blacks are the real Jews. All right? The ones that are in Israel right now are Israelis. They're not Israelites. They're Israelis, they call themselves. And they call themselves Jewish, meaning they're they're acting like that. That suffix ish, it means you're acting like something you're not. So that's why they call them the Jewish, because they're really not the Jews, but they're acting like they're the Jews. See? Like if I said you're childish, that doesn't mean you're an actual child. It means you're acting like a child. Okay? So verse, but that's the proof that those fake Jews are not the true Jews, because there's still wars. Okay? And that where it says they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, in verse 3, that's dealing with their weapons. They're going to turn them into gardening tools. Why? Because they're going to be doing work in the kingdom. That's a symbolic thing, a parabolic thing. The nations that we judge are going to go into subjection under us. They're going to be slaves and handmaids and servants, right? We read that in Isaiah chapter 14. It tells you, that the other nations are going to, starting out with Esau, Edom, are going into slavery under the Israelites. Verse 4. So that's why their weapons, they're not going to use that for war, because there's no war anymore. But you bet your ass they're going to have to work. They're going to have to, they're going to have to do the hard labor in the kingdom. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahweh of hosts hath spoken it. Because we're going to be at peace. No one's going to be able to scare you or put you in a situation, when you're in the kingdom, if you're an Israelite. And the other nations they're going to know that, obviously they're going to know that, we are a different people. They're going to know that we are, a better people, a better nation than the rest of the nations. Let's see. Verse 5. For all people will walk, everyone in the name of Yahweh the power, and we will walk in the name of Yahweh our power forever and ever. So everyone's going to know the true names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You're not going to be sitting here arguing with a simpleton who can't get the names right now. Like, right now, you tell them the name, it's Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. They're, you Yeshua? Yeshua? No, Yahweh Shai. Oh, yeah, I know Yeshua. We're telling you the name. It's Yahweh. That's the conversation. That's how it goes. People aren't going to be acting like that in that day. All right? And through the Spirit, I was watching one of Elder Apostle Tahar's video, and another proof of the names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is on the Moabite stone, which is in a museum in France. You can look it up. It's called the Louvre Museum in France, which holds the Moabite stone. And on that Moabite stone is an inscription in Hebrew, in the Paleo Hebrew, and it shows the names Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. All right? Things that they don't tell you or teach you about in school, right? Or you're never going to learn that in a church. They're not going to teach you the true names, but we have the names. All right? It tells you that in John. Let's get that real quick since I'm on the subject of the name. John 17:6. It says, I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. So manifested means shown. So Yahweh Shai, it's in the red letters. He's telling you that he showed us the name unto the men which gave it, with who Yahweh gave Yahweh Shai out of the world, which are the prophets of Israel, right? We were given to Yahweh Shai from Yahweh, you see? And he's shown us the name, all right? And then let's read 7. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee, right? So one of the things that was given is the names of the Father, right? And the Son. We know them. So let me go back to Micah 4, verse 6. It says, In that day, saith Yahweh, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. And the her is dealing with Zion, Israel, right? Zion is another word for Israel. So it's our nation is who the her is referring to. Because when we go to Jeremiah 6:2, it says, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman, right? So the daughter of Zion is Israel. That's another word. Zion, it means monument, but it also means, it's another way of saying Israel, as in the Israelites. And Yahweh likens us to a comely and delicate woman, right? That's why when you read in Micah, it says her, right? Let's go to Micah 4 and verse 6. It says, In that day, saith Yahweh, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out. Who is driven out? Who was driven out among all the nations? The nation of Israel was. And her that I have afflicted. Who's being afflicted to this day? You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. You are the Israelites. You're being afflicted in your captivity in America, Babylon. All right? Let me get a precept on showing you that it's talking about us. Jeremiah 32 and 37, it says, this is a precept, beautiful precept for this lesson. Behold, I will gather them out of all the countries whither I have driven them in mine anger and in my fury and in the great wrath, and I will bring them again unto this place, and I will cause them to dwell safely. Right? Remember, we just read that we're not going to fear anymore. Why? Because we're going to be safe and sound, man. In the kingdom, there's not going to be no threat of Esau, Edom. Matter of fact, we're going to be eternals. We won't die in those new bodies we get. You know, the celestial bodies, which means heavenly bodies, right? Because we're going to be able to dwell in the heavens. We're going to be able to dwell on the planets. So we won't fear anything, and we're going to dwell safely. But it's the point in this verse is that Yahweh is going to gather us out of all the countries where he has driven us. All right, so it's telling you even more proof. It's talking about the nation of Israel. All right, let's read 6 again. In that day, saith Yahweh, will I assemble her that halteth, meaning he's going to put us back together, you know, because we stopped. We used to be a great nation, but we stopped being a great nation when we turned our backs on Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And now it's a gathering, right? Through the Spirit, through the Holy Scriptures, through the Holy Spirit, we're bringing the nation of Israel together, right? The men who are teaching this truth. And I will gather her that is driven out of, and her that I have afflicted, and I will make her that halted a remnant, right? The remnant, he starts out with the prophets, the 144,000. And her that was cast far off, a strong nation, and Yahweh shall reign over them that mount in Mount Zion from henceforth even forever. See, so it's telling you about the restoration, restoration of our nation. All right. Verse 8. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold, the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. All right. So the tower of the flock is literally talking about the prophets. Because, you know, it's like talking about like a flock of sheep. Because we always tell you the Israelites are likened unto sheep, right? The Edomites, the wicked, they're the goats. The 2/3, they fall in line as a goat because they follow the ways of the Edomite. So they remain as goats when, you know, by heritage, they're actually a sheep, but their philosophies, their mindsets, you know, is a goat, that of a goat, which like I say, the Edomite. That's why do you think the Edomite calls his greatest of all time, right? His GOAT in sports. It's a tribute to Baphomet, which is Satan, right? And when you go into, well, I didn't want to go here, but I will real quick. Daniel 8, and I think it's 21. It talks about the goat, right? It says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So the goat of the king of Grecia, this is dealing with Alexander the Great, right? He's the first king of Greece, right? Because once Alexander was established as the king of Greece, he went on a military rampage for 12 years, and he moved quickly, conquering the ancient world. And because of what Alexander had started and set up, is really why you still have the American Edomite captivity, because we're still under captivity under these Edomites. The Edomites have had several kingdoms to rule over us. All the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? So let's go back to Micah, verse 4, verse 8. It says, "And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold, the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come." So the dominion, the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So that's going to come to the prophets, the 144,000. We're going to be joint heirs with Yahushua, meaning he's a king, and so will we be. We'll be kings. We'll have a strong nation, like it tells you. I think it's Isaiah 60. Watch, let's go to that real quick. Isaiah 60 in the last verse. It says, "A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, Yahweh, will hasten it in its time." See, so we're going to be kings of those nations because a little one are the prophets, right? Because we're looked at as babes in this truth, right? Which is, you go into those words, little ones, babes, is insignificant in society right now. You know, there's nothing, you know, we don't have a military. We don't have, you know, we're not living in the fatness of the earth. We don't have these big mansions that we live in now. We don't have a mega church where we teach. No, we're just insignificant. We're teaching on the street corners. It's a humble environment, you see. That's why it's a stumbling block for our nation, because when they look at that humbleness, they're expecting a big mega church. They're expecting us to have a lot of money and power. But no, the little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, Yahweh, will hasten it in his time. So this means we're going to have a lot of kids, so many kids to fill a whole nation. And that's just a little one, right? So let's go back to Micah 4, and I'm at verse 9. "Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon," which we're talking about spiritual Babylon now, right? America. "There shalt thou be delivered," because we're going to be delivered from this place, man, with that strange salvation that it talks about in Wisdom of Solomon 5:2. By the chariots, right? During nuclear war, when the other heathen nations start blasting America with nuclear fire, that's our last hope, right? Is to be the hopeful elect and to go up in those chariots. And then we could stop calling ourselves the hopeful elect once we get delivered from this place during the nuclear fire, right? Because Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, according to the Bible, is going to save us with what you call a UFO. It's going to be a strange salvation, because that's not what you're expecting to happen. So you heathen, you 2/3, you're going to look at it as a strange thing. For us you got so-called black people, Latinos, and Native Americans going up in a chariot, what you call a UFO. It's going to be a strange thing for you to behold, for you to observe, okay? Since I'm talking about it, I will bring just that one verse out. Wisdom of Solomon 5:2 says, "When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for." Okay, so when the heathens see our salvation, with us going up in a UFO, it's a chariot, you're going to be like, what the hell? It's going to be strange to you, so far beyond that you look for. You're not expecting that. Micah 4, and I'm at verse 10. Let me start at the middle of the verse. It says, "And thou shalt go even to Babylon, there shalt thou be delivered." I just told you how. "There Yahweh shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies." Okay. It says, verse 11, "Now also many nations are gathered against thee that say, Let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion." Now you just got to go to Psalm 83 Well, let's do it, because that gives you the list of those nations that are gathered against us. And it really goes into all the heathen nations, starting out with Esau, Edom, all right? So we'll go to, we could start out, we'll start at 2. Psalm 83, 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So that's why you Israelites don't know remember who you are. You're walking around calling yourself black, Latino, Chicano, Native American. You're taking pride in all these bywords when the scriptures prophesied that we would be cut off as a nation, and there's no remembrance of us, of who we are. That's the goal of all the heathen nations, because they know who we are. The top elite know who we are. That's why anytime a so-called black person or Latino or Hispanic speaks out on this truth and says, hey, I'm an Israelite, they get reprimanded by these Edomites. Nick Cannon, he did it. Kendrick Lamar did it. Who else? There's been a few as of late who have came out and said, hey, we're the Israelites, or we're the Jews, and Esau Edom, hey, he doesn't play with that. He if you have a show, he'll cancel your show. If you have you're making a lot of money, he's gonna, as a musician like Kendrick Lamar, he's gonna silence you, pay you off. That's why those we tell you those celebrities sell their souls, because some of these celebrities know the truth. They know they're Israelites, but yet they take the money, they take the bag, and they follow Esau's direction, his agenda, right? Kendrick Lamar is a perfect example, because that dude was telling you he was an Israelite a couple albums ago, and then in his latest album, he's pushing transgenderism, and he doesn't say, I'm pretty sure he don't say nothing about being an Israelite on his new album. But it says, verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent, that they are confederate against thee. So all these nations are against us, okay? They're all against us. They want us to be defiled, like we read in Micah. Because if we're defiled, then we don't have no power. But when we start coming into this knowledge and this truth, and repenting and teaching and showing people that we are the Israelites, then that's a threat to the other nations. So it tells you in verse 6, the tabernacles of Edom, which is the so-called white man, the Ishmaelites, which is the Arabs, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, right? Moab, the Chinese. I'm going to go down to 7. Gebal, which I believe is the African Hamite tribe, and Ammon, Japanese, and Amalek, the fake Jews. The Philistines, which are some more Hamites, with the inhabitants of Tyre, which are also Hamites. See? Ashur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Silah, right? And the children of Lot, who were the children of Lot? Was Ben Ami and Moab. So they're trying to tell you that the dominion, once Esau Edom falls from the dominion, the children of Lot will have they're going to hope in the children of Lot, which the children of Lot are those Asians, the Moabites. That's why they're always telling you, oh, China's the next superpower, because that's what the hope is, right? Because they'd rather have China as a superpower than the Israelites being the dominion on the earth. See? That's how bad they hate you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. They would rather put the fucking Chinese, Down syndrome, incestual ancestry above you Israelites. Because when you read that story of Lot, he was fucking his daughters, and his daughters gave birth to the Asian babies, if you will, Ben Ami and Moab. That's why their eyes are slanted, because of that incest. It all goes back to the Holy Scripture, the ancient Bible. Go read the story of Lot and him having sex with his daughters because they got him drunk, right? That's the product. You Asians, you so-called Asians, are the product of incest in the Bible. And that's why your eyes, they call it Mongolialism, right? It's like when the people that have, Down syndrome, they call that, the look that those kids with Down syndrome have is Mongolianism. It goes back to the children of Lot, who through incest had that birth defect, which is the slanted eyes. And some of them have this squished face, whatever you want to call it. You know the distinct characteristics of what you call an Asian. All right. So I go back to Micah 4. Where are we at? 11. I'll read it again. Now also many nations are gathered against thee that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. That's what we just read. Those nations that are against us, confederate against us. That's what that word confederate means. It means that they're together, they're against us. Verse 12. But they know not the thoughts of Yahweh, neither understand they his counsel, for he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. Because none of the heathen nations know the ways of Yahweh. They don't know Yahweh's thoughts. Matter of fact, in Psalms 10 and 4, it tells you the so-called white man that Yahweh is not in his thoughts. Right? Let's read that. Talking about the wicked, it says, Psalm 10 and 4, the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after Yahweh. Yahweh is not in all his thoughts. Okay? So the true Edomites, they don't walk around thinking about Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He doesn't even cross their mind. Some of them they'll say God, but that's dealing with the wicked system that's set up here in America for you to worship, JC, old JC, Cesare Borgia, aka Jesus Christ, right? So really, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is not in any of these people's thoughts, except for the elect. You see. Where are we at? Verse 13, Micah 4 and 13, and I'm going to close out on this one. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine iron hot, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto Yahweh, and their substance unto Yahweh of the whole earth. All right, so it's another more proof that we're going to be beating down these nations in the kingdom. We're going to be the dominion, man. You just like you had us in hard bondage and oppression and slavery and captivity. Well, now it's going to be your turn. You see, the curse, we were cursed here on earth to be subjects to these heathen nations. But the kingdom, we're going to have the dominion in the kingdom, right? Let me get this and I'll close out on this. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. It says, and Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. See? So in the kingdom, you other nations who are not so-called blacks, Latinos, or Native Americans, you're going to have these curses on you. Because the Bible calls you our enemies, because you all throughout all history, the heathen nations have put us in slavery. But now the curses are going to fall on the enemies, right? The enemies that are confederate against us. We read about in Psalm 83. And them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, right? So all these nations hate, even the Moabites, they hate us. That's why they do those comedies where, where they show the young so-called black boys going into the Chinese convenience store, and they got the Asian lady in the movie talking about, hurry up and buy, hurry, because, hey, they don't like us, man. Their spirit, they'll act cool to our face, but damn well these Asians, these Edomites, these Hamites, these Arabs, so-called, they don't like the nation of Israel. They don't trust us. When we move into their neighborhoods, they get, it's an uneasy feeling for them, right? They don't like seeing you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans moving into their neighborhood, or even walking into a restaurant where they are. A lot of times you get looked at funny, right? So, and now we're in the time where the curses are going to fall on the enemies, right? Including slavery. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the day that Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushai going to visit the earth. So with that, I want to give all praise and all the glory unto Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai B'Hashem Rekach Wadash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth. Also, I want to acknowledge all the Akiam who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect.